Hello and welcome to the Sports Room, hosted by me, Unger to the Max, and thanks for tuning in. Today, it's just me, but in the future, I will be bringing various guests onto the show, and we will be discussing various topics, like I'm bringing one guest on who wants to talk Green Bay Packers. I'm bringing another guest on who wants to talk Carolina Panthers. I've already recorded one episode where we did a little bit of first take style debate. So it's going to be that type of series that I'm running. But for today, on the Sports Room, it's just me. But don't tune out. Keep watching, because I think you'll find this topic interesting. So, today's topic is the best 2 words in all of sports. Game 7. It's simple. Game 7 is simply the best 2 words in all of sports. I mean, how many sports have a Game 7? Think about this. MLB, the NBA, and the NHL. And I guess, in a way, the Super Bowl is the NFL's equivalent of a Game 7. And, though this doesn't happen very often, if a rivalry in the UFC completes a trilogy, that third fight could be considered a Game 7. Could be. But I don't know about you, but when I hear Game 7, the first sport I think of is not the NBA or the MLB. I think of hockey. Here's why. Because Game 7s in the NHL are very unpredictable. I discussed this in a previous video, but I believe hockey is the most unpredictable sport. You don't know what you're going to see when you attend a game. You don't know if you're going to see a breakaway goal. You don't know if you're going to see a bunch of penalty minutes. You don't know if you're going to see an amazing save. You don't know if you're going to see a shutout. You might see a game that goes into a 6-round shootout. You might see a game that ends 2-1. I mean, there's just so many factors. And I'm talking about the game itself. I mean, yeah, baseball can be unpredictable as well. Because, like I said, kind of in the same idea as hockey, you don't know when you're going to see a home run. You don't know if you're going to see a no-hitter. You don't know if you're going to see a perfect game. You don't know if maybe you're going to see, somebody hit for the cycle. Whereas in basketball and football, you kind of have an idea of what you're going to see. With basketball, you're going to see people dribbling it up the court, passing it, and the defense is trying to steal it or block the shot, whatever. And while the offense is trying to score it via the three-pointer, a mid-range jump shot, layup, breakaway, alley-oop, dunk, free throw, whatever. And in football, it's pretty much, the quarterback just handed it off. The quarterback just threw a pass. Now, I get it. The quarterback might throw like a 5-yard route to a receiver, and the receiver turns it into like a 75-yard touchdown. I get that. But you basically know what you're going to see with football and basketball. With football, like I said, quarterback hands it off to the running back. Quarterback throws it. And you might see touchdowns, you might not, you might only get field goals, whatever. But you get what I'm saying. Anyway, back to Game 7. So, we had many Game 7s in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. We had Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final, where my favorite team from the Western Conference, the St. Louis Blues, took down the team I hate the most in all of the NHL, the Boston Bruins, in Game 7 in Boston. And a big part of the reason why I hate the Boston Bruins is because they eliminated the Columbus Blue Jackets in 6 games from the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2019, which was just last season. The Blue Jackets before 2019 had never made it to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So when Boston did eliminate us in Game 6, I literally started crying. I'm not kidding. I started crying about it because I felt so bad for them. Like, that was the Blue Jackets' best opportunity to possibly win a Stanley Cup. I think that if we had somehow beaten the Boston Bruins, we could have beaten the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Finals, but I'm not sure we would have beaten St. Louis. But that would have been a good series, Columbus against St. Louis. Anyway, so we also had round 1, game 7, Hurricanes at Capitals. We had round 1, game 7, Golden Knights at Sharks. We had round 2, game 7, Stars at Blues. Round 2, game 7, Avalanche at the Sharks. Interestingly, in both of their home game 7s, the Sharks were in a game surrounded by controversy. Because if you remember, in round 1, in their series against the Golden Knights, Vegas was penalized, was given a 5-minute major because I believe it was Cody Eakin, although I could be wrong on this. Once he lost the face-off, he took his stick and went right into, I believe it was Logan Couture, sending Couture down to the ice, hitting his head first, and Vegas was assessed a 5-minute major. And of course the Golden Knights were not happy about this. They're like, it should not have been a 5-minute major and all that. And during that 5-minute major, San Jose was able to come back and tie the game. Then in round 2, they're facing the Colorado Avalanche, who had eliminated the top seed in the West, the Calgary Flames, in round 1. Now, I believe this was in the third period. There was a play where Colorado was called offsides and the goal was disallowed. But if you go back and watch that replay, it was not offside. So the refs clearly missed that call. But, like I've said in the past, each game, it seems like the refs miss a call. They're not, nobody's perfect. I'm sorry, but nobody is. I mean, you can try your best to be perfect, but nobody is. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss calls. I mean, the Sharks should have been called for a hand pass on their game-winning goal of Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals against St. Louis. But they didn't. But they weren't. And I believe the refs came out afterwards and said, hey, we blew it. But anyway, with Game 7, especially in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it just adds that intensity, especially when the game goes into overtime. Because when a game goes into overtime for hockey, it's sudden death. First goal wins. And it's kind of that way in the NFL, unfortunately. You can ask the Kansas City Chiefs about that one. Don't you remember the 2019 or 2018 AFC Championship? It's so weird that we call it the 2018 AFC Championship, but it took place in 2019. My friend and I have been consistently debating about this lately. So, we looked it up. The Denver Broncos, when they won Super Bowl 50, are considered to be part of the 2016 champions. But if you listen to the preview for their Super Bowl film, which I would like to purchase at some point, they say the 2015 Denver Broncos. Here's another example. The Super Bowl 48 champions, Seattle Seahawks. They won the Super Bowl in 2014. But when you watch the film, they're called the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. Or the New York Giants. They won the Super Bowl in 2012, but they're referred to as the 2011 New York Giants. So, but who's right and who's wrong there? Or are we both right? So anyway, getting back on topic, Game 7, like I said, best 2 words in all of sports. I mean, I can think of so many great Game 7s. 2016 NBA Finals, Cavaliers at Warriors, 2016 World Series Game 7, Cubs at Indians, 2010 NBA Finals, Game 7, Celtics at Lakers, 2001 World Series Game 7, Yankees at Diamondbacks, 2002 World Series Game 7, Giants at Angels. I could keep going. Let's see. 2011 Stanley Cup Finals. Boston Bruins at Vancouver Canucks. Yeah, the game where Vancouver burned the city down because the Canucks got shut out. I believe it was like 4-0. Let's see. What other Game 7s are there that I'm missing? I'm sure there's others. But for me, when the series doesn't go 6 or 7 games, I feel disappointed. Especially if a series ends in a sweep. Because, for me, if a team sweeps its opponent, it makes it feel like the opponent didn't deserve to be there. Like when the Milwaukee Bucks swept the Detroit Pistons in the first round of the playoffs, it didn't feel like the Pistons actually deserved to be there. But is deserve the right term there? Not sure. Because, and I talk about this with my first guest of the Sports Room, and I will upload that video in a few weeks, like I said. The 2007 Cleveland Cavaliers. Did they deserve to be in the NBA Finals against the San Antonio Spurs? Or is it simply that they just overachieved? Right? Think about that. I mean, they beat the Washington Wizards in round 1. And think about this. The Wizards on that team had Deshaun Stevenson, you can't see me. Caron Butler, Gilbert Arenas, Agent Zero as he's also known, Antoine Jamison, I believe Brendan Haywood was on that team. Then in round 2, they went up against the New Jersey Nets. The Nets had just been to the NBA Finals, I believe it was in 2003 against the Lakers, where they were totally outmatched. But the Nets had a prime Vince Carter, Richard Jefferson, a prime Jason Kidd, and the Nets gave the Cavs a tough series. I believe Cleveland actually ended up winning that in 6 games, I think it was. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Pistons, we overachieved. Because the only reason the Cavaliers won that series is because LeBron had that 25-point explosion late in Game 5. I believe it was towards the end of the fourth quarter and overtime. That's the only reason we won that series. Now, interestingly, all 4 games of the finals between the Cavaliers and Spurs were competitive. And like I said, I don't want to give everything away, but I do talk about this. So stay tuned. But, I'm not so sure we deserve to be there. But, again, is deserve the right term, or should I be saying overachieve? But, and the same thing with the 2018 Cavaliers. I'm sorry. I'm a Cavaliers fan, so I should love that we made it to the NBA Finals. But we didn't belong there. Come on. All we had was LeBron. That's the only reason we beat the Pacers in round 1. Indiana should have won that series. But because we had LeBron, we were able to win that series in 7 games. And same thing with the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. LeBron had an amazing performance in Game 6. I believe he had 42 points. And then that game, there's another Game 7. That Game 7 between the Cavaliers and Celtics 2018 Eastern Conference Finals. This is another reason I'm mad at iTunes. I want to go back and watch that game. That game was one of the best games I have ever seen. And I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that. I know the Cavaliers won, but I think it was only like I think the final score was like 93-87. Let me double check on that super quick. Yes. No, it was even lower scoring. It was 87-79. Think about that. 87-79. The Cavaliers won. And then what happens? They go to the finals and get absolutely taken apart by the Warriors. I would have preferred to have seen Terry Rozier against Steph Curry, Jaylen Brown against Klay Thompson, Jason Tatum against Kevin Durant. I think it would have been such a fun matchup if the Celtics had made it to the finals in 2018. And they could have, I really do think they could have potentially tested the Warriors. Do I think the Celtics would have won the series? No. But I think Boston could have at least tested the Warriors. Made the series go at least 5 or 6 games. And I think all 5 or 6 games, however long the series went, would have been exciting. The only exciting game of the 2018 NBA Finals was Game 1, when J.R. Smith, didn't realize how much time was left on the clock. I mean, yeah, we could have won that game. Then what would have happened? We would have lost in 5 games. But the only silver lining would have been, well, at least we lost to the Warriors in Golden State, which is what happened in 2017. But if you think about this, the Cavaliers could have potentially had a three-peat. Think about this. If Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love are healthy in 2015, most people agree the Cavaliers win that series in 2015 against the Warriors, without a doubt. So the Warriors caught a break. Obviously, we know what happened in 2016. I'm still mad at the NBA for taking down their content from iTunes and Amazon because I want to be able to see the complete story. But that's neither here nor there. And then in 2017, Golden State just had Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green. All we had was LeBron. Because Kyrie Irving went to Boston, and yeah, it was complete makeover. I mean, we had Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder, but they didn't really do anything for us. So, yeah. But that's just my opinion. Game 7's the best. By the way, the NFL schedule comes out tonight at 8 o'clock. I'm excited to see what the Broncos' schedule is going to look like. I'm also excited to see what the Bills' schedule is going to look like. The Colts' schedule, of course, the Browns. On the NFC side, I'm curious what the Bears' schedule is going to look like. What's the Panthers' schedule going to look like? Obviously, we're all curious what Tampa Bay's schedule is going to look like. And of course, who are the Kansas City Chiefs going to open their season against when they raise their Super Bowl 54 champions banner? Who are the Chiefs going to open their season against? So that's going to do it for this episode of the Sports Room. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, punch that subscribe button like a UFC fighter and punch that like button. Until next time, this is Unger to the Max signing off. A salute to you.